Meanwhile, some stunning comments from Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg about the nation's infrastructure system. Here's that.
I'm still surprised that some people were surprised when I pointed to the fact that if a highway was built for the purpose of dividing a white and a black neighborhood, or if an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or that would have been in New York, was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices.
Joining us now to discuss, panelist Joe Conason, editor-in-chief at the National Memo, also a Newsmax contributor. We're also joined by Jacquie Jordan, host of Front and Center with Jacquie Jordan podcast, and she's also a political analyst. Panel, thanks for coming on. Let's get this conversation going. We just played for you a soundbite from yesterday's briefing, where we don't often see the Transportation Secretary, but he did make an appearance in the briefing room, and he took some reporters' questions. So, Jacquie, I'll start with you. What did you make of what he had to say, and where the administration's priorities really are right now when dealing with infrastructure issues?
Well, I want to start by saying anytime I see someone from the Biden administration in public these days, I'm always so surprised to see them make an appearance. The infrastructure bill is quite frightening, in my opinion, because I just feel like now we are, as citizens and workers, funding our own enslavement. And once again, to use the infrastructure bill that is supposed to actually go for infrastructure, having not read it, but understand that very little of it actually does go to infrastructure, and to hear it is, again, over racist issues is very discouraging. Again, I feel like we're paying for our own enslavement these days.
Joe Conason, bring you into the discussion there. If I can ask frankly, did you understand what the Transportation Secretary was talking about, and should that be the priority at this point coming from the White House?
Well, I don't think he said it was the priority. He was that's ripped out of context, and clearly he was answering a question that somebody asked about this. Look, you look in a lot of the shots that people have, and you'll see a book called The Power Broker by Robert Caro. It's one of the greatest biographies ever written. And those anecdotes that Secretary Buttigieg referred to are in that book. They're all about that Robert Moses did build bridges over highways that were too low for buses to go under. That's just a fact. So he was referring to some historical facts there that, you know, are widely acknowledged to be true. I don't see that that's a priority either way. It's a big bill. I have no idea what Jacquie means by the enslavement. It's millions of jobs, actually, and that's why Republicans in both the House and the Senate supported it.
Jacquie, I'd like to get your response, but before that, let's talk about what also happened during the press briefing. The Deputy Press Secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, was admitting that the administration is looking into shutting down an oil pipeline from Canada to Michigan. Watch this.
The administration studying the impact of shutting down the Line 5.
Yes, we are. We are.
So then what's inaccurate?
Well, I thought you were saying that we were going to shut it down, but that is not inaccurate. Okay, great. But the Army Corps of Engineers is preparing an environmental impact to look through this.
Okay, so they have prioritized studying the impact of possibly shutting down this pipeline. Keep in mind, this is coming at a time, too, where we're expected to see record heat prices as we go into the winter months. We've seen high gas prices as well. Jacquie, your thoughts on what we just played for you and heard there?
Well, I'm always surprised how the White House press secretary gets away with not ever answering a direct question. We know that if an additional pipeline is shut down, we're going to see inflation at the gas pumps, which we've already experienced. I know I went from $27 this time last year to fill up my car. Now I'm at $67 to do it. We know that the infrastructure bill and the overall agenda is pushing for the electric car, which comes out of the benefit of China and not out of American. Ultimately, I would like to say I'm not a big fan of gasoline, but gasoline is what we have, and we're being sold this idea that electric cars are going to be the climate solution to all our problems. But having been an electric car owner and driver, I can say there are a lot of other climate issues and expense issues that are not being reported and will not be fun to experience.
All right, Joe, if you don't mind, stick around. Jacquie, please stick around as well. More news to cover.
On the other side of this break, we'll dive into this. The White House appearing to ignore the federal court order. It has to do with those vaccine mandates or weekly testing for private businesses. We'll bring you details right after this.
The White House now telling businesses to move forward with vaccine requirements after a court-ordered stay. The Biden administration asking the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit to lift its pause, ruled on Friday, saying it could cause hundreds of lives per day. This comes as Republican attorneys general in at least 26 states are challenging Biden's vaccine and testing requirements in 5 different U.S. appeals courts. All right, the Biden administration reportedly dismissing that court order there is what we were talking about. I'll play this for you. This is the deputy press secretary on that.
We think people should not wait. We say do not wait to take actions that will keep your workplace safe. It is important and critical to do, and waiting to get more people vaccinated will lead to more outbreaks and sickness.
So that is still the message of the Biden administration there. Panelists are standing by, Joe Conason and Jacquie Jordan. Joe, where do you see this going? We've heard from several attorneys on the program that this could end up at the Supreme Court. Again, this challenge to the president's vaccine mandate or weekly testing order.
Oh, I think it's likely to end up at the Supreme Court in one form or another. But the truth is that most of the major employers in the country and many of the smaller ones have realized it's in their interest to mandate vaccines for their employees. Newsmax is one of them. I think it may not matter.
The vaccine's not mandated at Newsmax, just to keep it factual, but continue.
Newsmax is encouraging its employees to get vaccinated. And I don't know whether you have a test or vaccinate policy, but it was announced the other day that Newsmax is trying to get its employees vaccinated like many other employers in this country, including Fox News, many other places. And the reason is it makes for a safer workplace and a better environment and keeps the workers and their families safe. So I think employers will continue to do this, and whether the Supreme Court rules in favor of the administration's mandate or not.
Yeah, with all due respect, too, I think it's an overarching conversation about is it constitutional, according to the appellate court, that there is an understanding that this could be unconstitutional. That's what we're looking at here, whether there's a violation of the Constitution happening with the Biden administration using OSHA to implement this on private businesses.
And you're right. The courts may decide that it is unconstitutional, although I would point out, as I pointed out on this air before, the first vaccine mandate in this country was ordered by George Washington during the Revolutionary War. Before the Constitution was written, true, but there was a reason for it.
Jacquie.
Go ahead.
I've gone down the rabbit hole on that one. I've gone down the rabbit hole on the Spanish flu vaccine. I think that there's a lot of historical events right now that are being used to justify our current actions, but staying in the present moment with the idea of mandates versus encouragement is very specific, and I think people should not be financially manipulated. And there's no choice when your financial livelihood is dependent upon whether or not you do that. There's absolutely no choice in that, and I think it's really scary when the Biden administration, which is only one order of our executive branches, is not following the judicial order or allowing at least the play that our 3 branches are allowed to play out to actually happen.
The Biden administration is in court, seeking court approval of what they're trying to do.
26 states is a lot of this country is currently weighing whether this is constitutionally correct or not, and those voices need to be heard in the spirit of listening to all voices.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, they are being heard.
Well, and it continues to play out.
Not
Again,
if the Biden administration is playing it, and not if the Biden administration is ignoring it or pushing past it.
And that they are continuing to encourage workplaces to get people vaccinated, as we just played in that soundbite. If we could switch gears slightly. We've been getting in some polling numbers, and the press secretary was asked about this yesterday as well. And things are looking rough for the Biden administration at this point. So you can credit it to a number of things. But Joe, I'll ask you, when the president is polling at 38% to a USA Today poll right now, should the administration take a closer look at what might be behind those numbers? What we've heard from the deputy press secretary is that they aren't. and it's not impacting them. What would you recommend from a strategist's point of view?
Did she actually say they're not trying to figure out why his numbers have gone down? I'd be surprised if that were true. I'm sure they are. I think
She wasn't commenting on a specific poll.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, look, right now his numbers are about where Donald Trump's were throughout his presidency. So we'll see whether they go back up or not. You know, he's managed to oversee an administration that's responsible for the addition of 5 million jobs to the economy, far more than Trump accomplished in his first year. There are a lot of good indicators. The unemployment is down. The stock market just hit a record the other day of 36,000, which I think nobody expected. So, you know, I think we'll see where the numbers go now. The numbers always lag behind events, and I think events are in his favor right now. He passed the infrastructure bill. That ought to make a difference.
Some of those jobs, of course, were lost during the pandemic. So people coming back to work. Jacquie, your thoughts on the polling numbers? Did they tell you something?
I believe all Americans, no matter what side, really want the same thing. We want health, we want opportunity, we want safety, we want our families to grow up with the ability to be prosperous. But when it affects their pocketbook and they are unable to provide a healthy living for their family, it's when and we can see that based on the supply chain that's broken, gas prices that are going up, the inflation that we're having from a year ago. People get really restless and uncomfortable with that, and I think that's really showing up in Biden's polls at this time.
71% in an NBC poll saying the country is going in the wrong direction right now. Again, these are just polls, and we can talk about them with our panelists. Thank you, Joe Conason, Jacquie Jordan weighing in. We appreciate it, guys.